The Movie Preview Critic. Informing and entertaining your movie world.
What's up, good movie lovers? Welcome to a movie review for the Book of Eli. I did not do a preview review for this, so I decided to check out the film and share some thoughts about how it actually was. No predicting, just reacting. So if you haven't listened to a movie review with me, the movie preview critic, before, it's basically a ton of spoilers. Point of reviewing a movie is talking about what happened in the movie. So if you don't want to have your surprises and fun ruined, go check out the film first and then come back and listen to this. So I'm going to give you a 5-second count to turn this off and get out of here, get to the theater, and come back later. 5, 4, 3, 2, turn it off, last chance. Okay, the Book of Eli. Now, when doing an apocalyptic film, whether you're the director, the writer, or even the actor, you have to know what's come before. Because the audience, if they're going to see a movie that's an apocalyptic thriller, drama, horror movie, whatever it is, they've probably seen movies in that genre. If you're interested in it, it probably means you've seen movies like this before. So, what exists and how can you do it better? And when you're creating a story, what do you want to say about an apocalypse and what it does to society and what does it do within the characters of that society? So you have to look at what's come before. Some of my favorite films would be A Boy and His Dog, the Mad Max trilogy, The Day After, which had a lot of heart because it wanted to communicate to the leaders of the world in the mid-80s, namely Reagan and Gorbachev, Russia and the US, that blowing ourselves up was not an option. And it attempted to show what would happen if they decided to, quote-unquote, push the buttons. The most recent films to address the apocalypse, probably because 2012 is coming up, and we're all getting in that the world's going to end kind of mood. Roland Emmerich's 2012, and The Road. So if you're creating the Book of Eli, you're not basing it on anything, what do you want to say and show that would be different from the other movies that we've seen? Well, something that Eli does really well is that it addresses religion. And because of that, I like that Eli had the balls to base everything around a Bible. There's your first spoiler. The Book of Eli is the Bible. His mission is that he is carrying around one of the last Bibles, possibly the last Bible, because, as Gary Oldman explains and as Eli explains, people after the war or the flash, right, this world has been destroyed by a nuclear war that isn't necessarily described. You see some great wide shots of craters on the ground, so you know that men have destroyed this, and a lot of them blamed the book, the Bible, religion, for destroying them. And he carries around this book because there's a voice within him. He heard the voice that led him to the book and told him that he needs to take it somewhere west for it to be preserved and to pass it along, that there is a place where it belongs. And this is basically the journey of a man going across country to that place. And I love that there's this idea here of faith, and there's a great line where Eli says something like, "I knew without knowing," if that makes any sense. And he's talking to Solara, the Mila Kunis character, and she's not really getting it because she's been born after the Flash, and she isn't educated, she can't read, she represents what's happening now, where Eli is this man from another time, that he remembers how things were before everything got destroyed. And that's important here. If you're going to create some characters, have Eli and Gary Oldman, who are old enough to remember how things were, have them comments about what it meant to them and how things are now, and then you have the new generation that doesn't know anything about the past representing what happens once a society falls apart. One of the great things about deciding to write an apocalyptic story is that you can take society down to the bare bones, and in a lot of ways this is similar to a western. Eli is very much the man with no name from the Sergio Leone Clint Eastwood spaghetti western trilogy. You don't really get his background, he just shows up. He's tough, he knows how to fight, he's good with the gun, but he has a certain kind of moral compass and he has a perspective of what's right and what's wrong. He does things for himself, but he also does things to help people. Eli is very much in the tradition of that kind of character, and the representation of society after an apocalypse is very close to that of a western, where back when America was forming, you see the beginnings of society starting to come together, where America was this land of opportunity. There was nothing established. One of the rare recent examples for us to have knowledge and proof of, okay, here's how the settlements began, here's how people organized, and here's how we got to where we are today. This movie is in some ways exploring that as well. It's very much like HBO's Deadwood, where, okay, this is the story of how this little town came together, and you have the law and the criminals who run the bars and the hookers and gambling, and you have the priests with the church, and you have the shop and the businesses, and how is all this coming together? That's always very fascinating to see. So you can take that back to Yojimbo, which is a great Akira Kurosawa film dealing with the samurai coming into a town. Once the samurai were not needed, they became kind of these mercenaries. So these themes are present anywhere society is experiencing growth or rebirth, which is really what's going on over here. And if you want a present day example of this, just take a look at the news and what's going on with Haiti after the earthquake. Today there are reports of young men wielding machetes going around and looting everything. So the fabric of order has been torn, and now we get an example of humans kind of reverting to that basic survival mode and what's happening. So look at Haiti. If you don't want a fictional movie version, just what really happens when the shit hits the fan, when things go bad. If you don't have that core society instilled into individuals, what's going to hold us together? I remember this notion in school that was taught about the Greeks. When an individual learned the various aspects of what it means to function in society, you learn that the society you're in is not only just everyone together, but everyone individually, so that if things start to break down, every individual knows what's right, knows how to behave, knows how to conduct themselves, and that's how you hold it together. The Greeks had this rigorous kind of pride, and we are who we are, whether we're 10,000 strong or just one individual. And that's another aspect that you can incorporate into an apocalyptic story like this. Is Eli a person who has these things instilled with him and wants to keep them going forward? You can go back to The Road for that, a great movie that's totally getting disrespected at the theaters. From its release, it was only in about 200 locations, which is a pity because it's one of the great, most courageous apocalyptic films ever made. It's basically a father and son for 2 hours traveling through a destroyed and decimated America, trying to keep the fire, maintain what it means to be a civilized modern-day human above basic survival animal instincts. Such a great exploration, so subtle. Really recommend that. Whereas when we're watching 2012, it's much more about the destruction of the symbols of society's achievements. Society is not judged on the buildings it erected or the streets that it laid. It's really about the individuals it created. That's the ultimate sign of a society. And 2012 makes it spectacular to watch in terms of the external visual world, where The Road makes it so gut-wrenching to experience the destruction of the inner world of people, where you have a mother who just can't go on and she'd rather abandon her husband and son than face another day in this sunless existence. Such a great experience. And Book of Eli is closer to The Road than it is 2012, but it just doesn't develop its characters well enough. It doesn't give each character a journey and a strong perspective to truly make us feel what's been lost and what's going on. Gary Oldman as Carnegie, the mayor slash sheriff slash criminal who runs a town, which the town itself is this great little comment on the pre-world before the apocalypse, where all the different buildings, very reminiscent again of a town from a western, have the logos of big business on. It's almost like they're in Beverly Hills after it's been obliterated by the bombs. And you have everyone kind of walking around not knowing what to do, with really cool sunglasses, so maybe they were in Beverly Hills. To truly make a strong post-apocalyptic film, you have to have that element of the characters in there. And Eli is drawn well enough, but it would have been great if he had a couple extra moments with Mila Kunis to explore what this all means for him, especially the past as reflected in the present. Mila Kunis, for me, would have been a key character to work on. Right now, she's kind of just like the damsel in distress all the time. Her transformation is she takes over for Eli. Eli makes it all the way, with the book, so to speak, to Alcatraz in San Francisco, where Malcolm McDowell has collected books and he has like this military force. You don't really get who he is and how he got to be in the situation he's in, but he's trying to maintain society's knowledge, trying to collect all of its most important books. He has a printing press, he wants to share them again, try to reorganize, to retribalize, and connect everyone again based on thought. So that seems to be an element here, is that what connects a society? Well, it's how we think. If we all share the same thoughts, the same values, then we are officially a culture, a society, and we obey the same rules. But once that's all gone and no one's telling us what to do, then if we don't have the same knowledge, we're going to start being in conflict with each other. So here, Malcolm McDowell is trying to maintain that, and the twist is that Eli doesn't have the book. He loses it to Gary Oldman, but Eli has it memorized. And the twist is that Eli is blind. Gary Oldman gets the book, and it's in Braille, and he can't read it. So you have Gary Oldman, this character who remembers the past, kind of had this religious background. You don't really get a sense of what he did other than that and before the bombs went off. But he wants to use the book to control people, to build other towns, and use religion to have the power. As the billboards say, that religion is power. It's very much this corrupted aspect of what religion can be. And it's this nice ironic little twist that this guy who's obsessed with the religion, he wants to use it for the wrong reasons, can't read the book. And it's a symbol of that his heart did not allow him to accept the message of what is within that book. It's a courageous move in terms of the story, and I like the way that's done. For Eli, here it turns out he was a blind man in a world where everyone can see, and he could sense things that they didn't. And there's a symbolism too that the sun is very bright and everyone needs the glasses to shelter themselves, because the ozone was destroyed during the war. And in a lot of ways, the sun is the symbol of God, and it's trying to rain down and trying to make everyone see, but everyone's putting their blinders on. They don't want to see.
Long live good movies!